Today's talk focuses on the fact that the success of the Tesla Semi actually ends the future of the Nikola truck. We also have some cleanup discussion of our discussion of Jaguar based on many defenders of what I think is an attractive vehicle that's basically not working. And then, as usual, we have sort of our Tesla roundup and our health tips. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is the first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Also wanted to thank our subscribers and Patreon supporters. It makes a huge difference in the success of our channel and is greatly appreciated. We are sort of something happened, which is that we try to do a trucking show perhaps once a week or once every couple of weeks. And we did a show on Nikola and their hydrogen truck and kind of what's going on in that space. And we got a lot of feedback from folks regarding the shortcomings of hydrogen and how all that worked. So I went back and did some digging, and I was kind of surprised that I didn't really sort of grasp fully what was going on. And what it is that Elon Musk in 2016 did a talk, and as you all know, he coined the phrase the hydrogen fuel cell. And so, I kind of wondered what that was about fully and wanted to get a feel. He did about a 2-minute interview with a company called the Automotive News. And during that conversation, he went through a long list of reasons why the idea of hydrogen is a really bad one. And so I watched the video, and one of the most interesting comments he shared was that hydrogen is actually a fairly pernicious molecule. It actually has some interesting properties. For example, you can't see the flame from hydrogen. So if it leaks and it's burning, you could have a major league fire on your hands without being able to tell where it's coming from. So I just thought that was really fascinating. I didn't know the hydrogen story that well, so I thought this was an interesting aspect of what was going on. The thing I thought was amazing as he reviewed all the elements of why hydrogen is a really, really bad idea was the fact that at the end of his video, he just indicated that, within a few years, it'll be very clear that electric is a way better solution than hydrogen, and the discussion won't need to happen anymore. Well, one of the points made by one of our viewers, and is confirmed elsewhere, is the fact that hydrogen as a solution is about 4 times the cost of electricity or other fuels. And so you now have this huge challenge, which is if in fact you choose the hydrogen route for delivering electric to a fuel cell, you also, not with all the other problems you have something called cost of goods sold problems, which is it's 4 times the cost. So when you have something in this case where you have this huge cost disadvantage we just discussed, it creates the problem of who are your customers going to be? And the reason why we're concluding that this actually destroys the future, the Tesla Semi destroys the future of that hydrogen truck, is that when you're facing 4 times the cost, possibly 10 times the cost for those vehicles, the chances that operating companies that have to make a profit being able to use that solution actually becomes very low. So it's our anticipation then that Anheuser-Busch is going to have to pull out of its agreement with Nikola to take 800 trucks, simply because the cost of operation for those vehicles are so high that there's no way that they can make that cost of goods sold versus what their current costs are work. So as a result of this, one asked the question, well, are there customers out there that can easily afford the solution that's represented by this? And the answer that we're coming up with is, yeah, there are. And if you'll note, right now, there are certain ports, the port of Los Angeles, et cetera. Uh, I have my images of hydrogen trucks behind us from Toyota. Um, so there are certain customers where cost is no big deal. So what's happening right now in the port of Los Angeles, and from what I'm seeing in Europe, is that the eagerness to reduce emissions results in port entities saying, "Hey, we we like um, we like any solution that doesn't pollute, and we're willing to work with hydrogen." And as you probably all know, the beauty of a port is the fact that um, they have unlimited money, and they can simply add incremental fees to the inbound freight, and they have monopolies. So they basically have no cost concerns when it comes to vehicles that they might want to put in operation. So basically, right now, Toyota, and from what I'm seeing, there's a Korean manufacturer, are actually delivering vehicles currently to the Port Authority of Los Angeles or Long Beach. Kind of, they're two different entities, but they're one entity. But the general point is that it doesn't cost is no object to certain customers, and they're a customer where they prefer the pollution benefits and can afford the higher costs that normal operating companies cannot. So I'm really fascinated by the fact that when you watch Nikola, their process initially was they were going to do uh, natural gas trucks and think about doing electric. Um, they maintained that profile for about 6 months and then pivoted to the fact that they were going to be doing hydrogen trucks and a whole series of charging stations around the United States that allow trucks to move in between these hydrogen powered stations. Sounded really good, sounded like something that was well planned out. But the problem you run into as well is the fact that the reason why natural gas trucks aren't common on roads is that when you move freight, there's a requirement that that freight be efficiently to that destination. So the nightmare that's popped up for freight is the fact that when you're having a long-term, long-range vehicle and you get stuck in a place where you have to wait multiple days for the parts to arrive, it creates a problem where the freight that you're carrying is late to market, and therefore customers get angry, and it doesn't fit into the just-in-time inventory process for anyone involved. So that was the death of the those vehicles. So we kind of bring this up because, when you look this thing over thoroughly, there are numerous challenges with the hydrogen vehicle. Number one, at least 4 times the cost of electric vehicles. Number two, who's going to work on these things? Number three, moving electricity to and fro in order to fuel up vehicles is a no-brainer, whereas you both have to produce, deliver, and store hydrogen, which has all kinds of properties that represent a nightmare to do any of the above on. So when you add it all up, the conclusion one has to arrive at is that it's a great idea because it's low emissions, but it's a really uh, bad idea because of all the sort of ancillary issues that pop up. And I found it interesting as I studied it. There's a whole bunch of our viewers that were reviewing storage and production and all these other issues. And I was thinking to myself, wah, 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 wah. And what I mean by that is that as soon as I was told that hydrogen is 4 times the cost of electric, and it might be as high as 10 times the cost, all of the other parameters of problems with it went out the window for me. Because when you have those kind of cost increases, there's no way that entities can remain economically viable if they go into this zone on a large scale. So in essence, then we may have a few hydrogen discussions that pop up, but the whole Nikola idea of the hydrogen future Um, it has been happening, but it's been happening on a very limited basis, with Toyota being the leader in this, both in cars with their Mirai and now in trucks being delivered in the greater Los Angeles area. And then perhaps the final death knell to this is the fact that, I don't know if you've noticed, but Toyota has actually capitulated on hydrogen because of the issues described by Elon, as well as commercial entities refusing to embrace the vision that they have. It's very clear that the customer base is saying that it's a great idea, the outcomes are great, but it's not viable. And so it'll be interesting to see how Nikola deals with this reality. And I believe that the electric pivot that they've done to have a fully electric truck available as part of what they're building is a reflection of the fact that they recognize that the hydrogen pivot that they did is not viable. Um, I also, so along with a statement to say, if we didn't have electric solutions that were efficient and that were coming on in the form of the Tesla Semi, I could really embrace the fact that Nikola is a viable possibility. But now that we see how this all works, I think the answer is um, our rest in peace, Nikola's hydrogen solution. The electric solution, I think, has a chance, but we're multiple years away from them finishing a factory and starting to run prototypes that anybody can drive. The flip side of this is, let's look at what's going on with Tesla and the Tesla Semi. As you all know, we're going to include a photo, of a recent photo of the truck carrying 75,000 pounds over an area that's called Truckee. Um, by the way, Josh, thanks for the comments. Um, it's a fascinating circumstance because the CHP had a very quick inspection of the truck and was impressed and hopeful that they see more of them in the future. Um, my assessment of the whole thing is that awesome car, or sorry, awesome truck. I still can't figure out why we're not seeing freight on that truck from actual customers. A couple of the notes on that truck that we'll be having a thumbnail of the photo. You'll notice that the truck is running the mountains of Truckee, California during the summer and not during the winter. The battery loss during the winter might be too great for it to make it over that mountain as the battery tries to warm itself. So I expect to have more photos over the next 2 to 3 months until probably late September, early October when snow hits. And then we'll go back to seeing the truck moving between Los Angeles and the design facility in Los Angeles and the Fremont factory, because that cold really affects what's going on with the batteries. And obviously we're hoping that production can start sooner than later so that we can all see this truck making the difference of low or no emissions. The next item I wanted to do is clean up some comments. There are numerous people that sent us hate notes regarding not liking the Jaguar. Our only point was the fact that if you have a giant company and only 1,000 or 300 consumers a month in the United States are buying your vehicle, and you're having issues with the battery range as well as difficulty with the folks who are supposed to repair these, there's a whole list of issues that are popped up for the vehicle. And so it's our sense then that it's a good looking car. It seems to perform pretty well, has a lot of great attributes. It's just that for well informed consumers, we're not seeing a lot of adoption. And we're hopeful that they make it because we want to see them being effective. But, part of the reality is that if people are buying and happy with your vehicle in large numbers, it's a sign of its viability, and we're not seeing that from Toyota. So I just thought that was worth noting. The next item that we wanted to flow into is that this week we did an interview with an owner of a brand new Performance Model 3, and I asked her how she liked her car. She she made a comment to me where she said, I own two Model 3s, the long range and the performance. And I was like, why is that? And she's like, well, when the model or the performance came out, it was $69,000. Now it's 50. So basically, I wanted to be able to go on the track and do other things with the vehicle, and uh, you can't really do that with the performance with the long range per se. So she bought the performance for 54,000, I believe it was, and now she's going to sell her long range because she definitely wanted to be able to take to the track and do other things with this. And frankly, this brings up a question of, wow, that's a huge price break on the performance, and I'm hopeful that this doesn't harm Tesla going forward because, you know, we've covered the fact that what they're doing is lowering the price so that when the tax credit disappears, people still have an ability to sort of operate in that same reasonable price. But I don't think the tax credit exceeded $8,000, and to have it go from 69K to 50K, a $19,000 drop. I'm just really hopeful that Tesla isn't chasing sales so heavily that it damages the company's ability to operate because they're not making enough money per car. So, interesting footnote data point about what's going on with pricing. I think worth noting. Um, the the final thing what we wanted to review today is that there's this. It probably ends up being a whole show for us. But there's an interesting sort of question mark emerging for a company like Tesla, which is, should we be profitable to boost the stock price, or should we lose money as we roll out new vehicles? And you've all seen over the last couple of quarters what Tesla's decision has been. And Elon doesn't seem to want to slow down on this process. So I think that the stock price stays ballpark where it's at or slightly down, only because you end up with a situation where there are large numbers of people who are buying the vehicle. The car's doing great, but the problem is that all the development costs of Semi and Roadster and all these other vehicles that are being developed, they're running all the costs, but there's no revenue or profit to go with the cost that they're running in these other projects. So thus far, the markets have been patient with Tesla, and I hope that'll continue to be the case because I think it's a great company, and the products being developed are awesome and do and will make a huge difference for people going forward. So I wanted to note that we're going to finish up our formal comments on Tesla right now and jump into sort of our health segment prior to close. And something just popped up this week. I met a gentleman from the NIH whose specialty his specialty is, well, I'll just tell you the situation. When I encounter doctors of different types, I will ask them the question, are there any health tips that you might have based on your specialty? And what he specializes in is allergies, and he was moving from the NIH to a job in New York at Columbia. And I asked him, well, can you just tell us a tip that's in your area? And he pointed out to me, having young kids exposed to cow dung is a really good idea, because when kids are exposed to that at a very young age, by the time they become adults, they have no issues with allergies. And so I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And he's like, nope, that's the case. So what he explained was there's a large number of researchers in drug companies now that are trying to identify the properties of cow dung that cause this to occur and turn it into some kind of a pill so that kids in city settings and other places can avoid having the cow dung route, but get the benefits of how this might affect them going forward in terms of inoculations that might impact their future lives relative to allergies. So weird data point of the day, I know, but I just thought that was really interesting that he pointed this out. And I know that some of you have grandkids and kids that are young that might benefit from getting out on the farm and the allergy impact of this. And I have to admit, I somewhat grew up on a farm when I was in that age range and dealt with a lot of cow dung and have no issues with allergies at all. And I'm thrilled that that's the case. He also indicated that exposure early is critical, and as an adult, it doesn't make any difference. But I just thought this was a fascinating little footnote to be considered. Um, as usual, we always encourage folks to do 25 leg lifts a day to help strengthen the quad muscles. Remember, don't eat within 4 hours uh, hmm, don't eat within 4 hours of going to bed, preferably at least 2 hours to allow food to digest so you don't get acid indigestion. Um, really look forward to your general comments. I was hoping Nikola would make it, but the way things are going, I don't think that's the case. I was actually taking time to read some of the notes so I could comment. Donovan is talking about the fact that Teslas end up with a 3-month wait in a warehouse before they're allowed to hit the street. Thanks for the comments, Josh, Donovan, et al., and thank you all for joining us live. We're actually looking forward to any and all of your comments that you might have on our show today. And a reminder, please take time to like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference. Please also note that your comments actually affect the topics that we chase down. So as you post questions or comments, i.e. what's going on with Jaguar, etc., it definitely has an influence. So this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, lehitrot, Hebrew, choda hafez, Farsi, ni hao ma, Chinese, zdravstvuyte, Russian. In Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good, and I will have a few other languages as you guys tell me which ones to learn to add to our list. Have a great day. Bye for now, and thanks once again for joining us.